Hi guys, I hope you're all fine. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be commencing shortly. Uh, Till then, I like to mention a few points. We can you can what you can do is share this link with your friends, anyone who might be interested in this domain. Also, we'll be having a Q&A session after the talk is over. So if you guys have any question regarding the talk, please note it down somewhere and you can ask it later. After the talk, we'll also circulate a feedback form. So please kindly fill that too. So we'll be commencing shortly. We can wait for some others to join. Okay, so I think we'll begin now. First, I'd like to welcome you all. I'm Ayush Chauhan, a member of the Cyber Sentinel family at UPES Dehradun, and I'm very honored and excited to moderate this session for you. So, cybersecurity involves of both offense and defense. The most effective method to find a vulnerability in a system is to attack the system itself. Those who dedicate themselves to this approach have created a successful career in bug hunting. Thus, bug bounty can be a lucrative career as a cybersecurity enthusiast. We bring you this session to enable you to make the most out of your bug hunting experience. I'm glad that we could have Mr. Harsh Bothra sir with us. Mr. Harsh Bothra sir, even though he need no introduction, he's already a known personality in the infosec domain. But for those who don't know him, I like to tell that Mr. Harsh Bothra is currently working as a cybersecurity analyst at Detox Technologies. He has also previously worked as an application security engineer at Security Innovation. He is currently ranked among Bugcrowd top 50 researchers of all time and is Bugcrowd's MVP for quarter 1 and quarter 2 for 2020. He is also a part of Synac Red Team and Cobalt Core, which is already a huge achievement in itself. He has delivered talks in multiple security conferences like the DEF CON Red Team Village and the Bug Bounty Village. He has authored multiple books on ethical hackings, which are also beginner friendly. And the list goes on. Now, I like Sir to please take over. Sir, over to you.
Hi Ayush. Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Ayush, for the great introduction. So I guess without wasting any more time, let's just begin. I will just stop my screen and share it again. Okay. Just confirm if you guys can see my screen. I guess we are good to go. If you can see my screen, Ayush or somebody can just confirm on the comment side if we are good. I will just switch off my camera. Okay. So, hi everyone, and again, we are meeting. I guess a lot of people might have already attended my previous talks. It's been a month or two. I haven't been into any talks. So, I, along with Cyber Sentinel at UPS, we decided to do something for you guys. Today, I will be talking about bug hunting tactics. Bug hunting has been a very popular topic lately. Since last 2 years, I can specifically say. When I started into this field a long back, there was like a limited number of people in India who you can count on fingertips itself. But now the community has grown like really big. There are a lot of good people doing a lot of interesting things, giving talks to writing tools and everything. So often bug bounty is like you report something as a critical issue and Trizer will say cannot reproduce, program owner will say cannot reproduce or something like that. And sometimes we have to just admit things that, yeah, it cannot be reproduced. So today I will be talking about what we can do to basically level up our bug bounty game, how we can perform application security on a particular web application or a mobile application, or like in a generic way, I will be covering about a lot of things. So just quickly going about Like who am I? Already Ayush gave a great introduction, so I will just skip this particular part. So today's agenda would be talking about bug hunting 101. This section is specifically a short introduction for those who are totally new or like just beginner to bug hunting and want to know that what this field is all about. Second one is bug hunting methodologies, where we will look at some specific methodology and some rules that we have to keep in mind. It's like if you keep them in mind or following those approaches, you always have a plus. Then we will talk about application testing methodology, where we will look at how we perform manual application testing, what we have to keep in mind while performing manual pen testing. Further, we will look at recon tactics, my recon methodology, the scope-based recon. Further, we will go about some burp suit hacks. I will show some of the burp suit hacks in the practical manner. Then I will be just discussing some of the client side and server side issue approaches, like how you can basically look for, say, XSE attacks, or how can you look for server side request forgery attacks, open redirection, cross site scripting, cross site request forgery, and things like that. At last, we will look at what are the business logics and how you can go about finding access controls at all. So let's just get started. So for those who are not that much familiar with bug hunting and bug bounties, so it's basically a white hat approach towards hacking. Like it gives you a legal way to hack somebody's system and like tell them, okay, your website is vulnerable to this particular attack, you go and fix it. Since you are doing help to organization to secure their assets, in return you get rewards. Rewards may be simple thanks, a swag, some piece of stickers, a certificate to some great amount of money as well. Legal profession worldwide, there are no like illegal complexities involved, or there are no legal formalities involved, as long as you are adhering the guidelines of the programs and adhering the ethical approach towards the bug hunting. You get a really good reputation and status, multiple platforms to get started. The community is really big, it's getting bigger each and every day. It's really lovely community. You will get a lot of support materials available. People drop a really good material on Twitter. Specifically, there are very good write-ups on Medium. Infosec write-ups is like a single collection of all bug bounty write-ups. So there are a lot of platforms: HackerOne, Integrity, Bugcrowd, Synac, Yes We Hack, Hack and Proof, CESPA. There are private programs going on. Company managed programs, like Google runs its own program, Facebook has its own program, Apple, Microsoft, etc. Now, there is a common question people ask, that we are beginning into bug bounty, which platform we should prefer. Okay, so Bugcrowd was the platform which used to give you points on duplicates, P3, P4, P2, P1. Now they have changed things. Now they give duplicate points only on P1 and P2, but they give Hall of Fame. So people used to feel motivated that yes, I am at least getting something. I am finding valid bugs. Okay, so I would suggest that start with Bugcrowd if you really need that motivation, that I am finding something at least. Okay, because HackerOne do not give you the Hall of Fames or something like that. You can also go for Integrity. There is very less crowd, but there are most of the European websites, and you might need to make sure that the language translator is always on Google Chrome or something which you are using. Otherwise, you will face a little problem while understanding what's written somewhere. CESPA is again a platform where like a lot of people don't even know about CESPA exist. Again, talking about Synac. Synac is a private bug bounty platform. It's like totally different from HackerOne and Bugcrowd in a lot of terms, and but it takes like a complete process to enroll, and they are like limiting the number of researchers that they are taking. So build a good profile and then apply for the Synac, and definitely like the hard work that you will do at Bugcrowd, HackerOne, and other platform will reflect in your Synac. I also work in Cobalt. Cobalt is more of a pen testing platform, not a bug bounty platform. So I just skipped that out from this list. In pen testing platform, they have like a fixed revenue model. Like you get $1,500 for each pen test that you do in a specific time duration. Okay, so let's quickly talk about bug hunting methodologies. There are 7 rules that I have defined and like divided them into granular things so that you can understand them. The rule 1 is that don't limit yourself to what you have learned through tutorials and labs. Don't get into lab mentality. This is the biggest thing, biggest drawback that people face. We get too much comfortable with the labs. You will solve DVW, you will solve juice shop, and a lot of other labs, and then you will be like, I am not finding CSRF. I found that in the lab but not finding in the real life, right? Because somewhere you got into that easy lab mentality that okay, I can do it here, but when you are not finding in the real life, you will feel a little demotivated. So the best way to deal with this is, as soon as you learn a particular bug class, try to find it in the real application and don't go that much into the labs. So if you're learning CSRF from say Portsmouth Web Academy, just learn it from there. That's it. Read some write-ups, learn some methodologies that other researchers are using, and apply it on the real applications. Because the real life scenarios are almost totally different from the labs. Okay, create your own checklist, make a detailed checklist with every possible test cases. So for example, you want to test for cross-site scripting, so say create a checklist called cross-site scripting, and under which write all the possible bypasses. Say I want to try for reflected accesses, I can say try for like say dome accesses. In dome access I can do X thing, Y thing, or Z thing. Okay, similarly you want to test for file upload functionalities. Now write some test cases down, that what I can do with file upload. I can perform remote code execution, I can perform DOS attack, I can perform SSRF, I can perform cross-site scripting, I can perform XML external entity attacks, things like that. Keep a track record of everything you test. So always make sure that you save the separate burp logs for every project. You create a different project for every burp, every time you run burp for a particular application. And make sure that you write down or take a rough note at least, that what you did in a particular application. So when you go back after a year or something on, you will be knowing that okay, this is a new functionality that the application released and I have to focus that particular thing. Now, track CVEs and public exploit releases. It will help you a lot, because if you have a good recon data, so you found that okay, I have a Jira version on my target, which is say version 8.1.0. After some time, you notice that Jira 8.1.0 is vulnerable to remote code execution. It will click in your mind that okay, my X target was vulnerable to this attack. You will have to just go verify the attack and report it. So make sure that you track CVs and public exploit releases. The best way you can do is to just go to Twitter and just follow CV Mitre Twitter handle. Be lazy and automate stuff. Automate stuff is like automated repetitive tasks. So for example, there are 100 subdomains and you have to perform directory enumeration for 100 subdomains. So if you are going one by one and performing directory enumeration on those 100 subdomains, you are doing it the wrong way. Okay, rather write a simple script with your favorite tool and favorite word list, and make sure that you run a loop where every time it will take one IP address, and again it will save results, another take second IP address. So you won't need to do that much work over here. Just write a script once and it will help you throughout. Then say no to automated vulnerability scanners. Automated vulnerability scanners, like relying upon the burp automated scanner or some Acunetics or some other scanners, they give a lot of false positives, and a lot of time they miss like most of the security issues. They are helping hand but not a replacement at all. At last, always be active to learn, apply what have you learned, and experiment. Like just don't get confused, like okay, I have learned that excesses can happen only from ABC way. Try to go beyond that ABC ways and try to perform or try to make your own exploit or own bypass, or try to find out your own way. Okay, every attack that you are seeing right now is like developed by some other person over the time. Okay, so you could be the next person to develop another exploit. So just don't basically limit yourself to a specific set of payloads or specific set of bugs that you know. Always try to be experimenting with the new bug classes. Okay, so this is a simple application testing methodology that I have developed over my experience. So the first thing is define target scope. Whenever you are testing on application, you should make sure that what is the scope. If it's a specific web application, say www.target.com, or is it star.target.com, or is it everything in the scope? Based upon that scope, you would be able to know that what you have to actually perform. If it's like www.target.com, I would prefer to not perform recon at all, or perform a very less of recon, because there is not that much thing that I can do on using recon with www.target.com. At the same time, if it's like everything in the scope, I will prefer performing recon and giving more and more time to recon, because there I can find a lot of things. Okay. Also, defining target scope helps you to be in scope, and like enables you to avoid out of scope issues. So make sure that you define target scope before like starting your bug bounty or pen testing thing. Navigate the application as an end user. This is really important step. You have to navigate application as a end user. So you are using, say, Amazon or Facebook. You have to first understand each and every component of Amazon and Facebook as a normal user, that okay, this message functionality allows you to send a message to your friend, allows you to create a group or something like that. So you will be able to know that what you are testing while you will start performing the actual pen test. Understand the application's business logic. So this is a crucial step. Business logic is something which is unique to every single application. So let's take an example of a particular e-commerce website which allows you to purchase something, and on every purchase it gives you some particular percentage as a reward point. Say example of Nika men or other thing. This app gives you like around 4 or 5% credits on every purchase that you make. Okay, so now this is a business logic that they have. What if I can make that 4 or 5% to 50%? Is it possible by any way? Are they doing it on the client side? So these are the some of the business logic that you have to understand, that how application is working. Once you know that the application's business logic, you can try to abuse them. Prepare a potential threat map. This is something that we will see in the very next slide. Perform scope based recon, perform manual pen test, and these are some of the things that we will see in the next slides. Perform application specific attacks. Okay, so again, let's take an example of e-commerce application. Okay, so e-commerce application has the functionality of adding a credit card, performing a transaction or something like that. At the same time, healthcare application might not have those functionalities. Okay, rather they will have functionalities like upload the health data, upload some date of birth things and like that. Now, in the first case, in e-commerce application, you can try to temper the prices. You can try to buy a product in Indian rupees and again return that product in US currency, right? Now, in that case, this is called currency arbitrage. Due to the difference in the INR and the dollar conversion, sometimes you will get 1 or 2 rupee extra for each transaction. And suppose on 1,000 rupee transaction, you are getting 2 rupee extra using this case. What if an attacker do 1 lakh rupee transaction? Right, he's getting 200 and something like that. So this is like more of a financial threat to the application, but this is a specific attack. Okay. On the same hand, if we talk about the healthcare application where you're uploading the healthcare data, what if an attacker uploads some malicious data which is processed and corrupts all users' data? Okay, so these are some of the application specific attacks that you have to think of. Document everything that you have observed, so that sometimes we are not able to find the bypasses on a particular thing, but you will find bypasses after a certain period of time. For example, there is a currently Cloudflare WAF bypassing, Cloudflare WAF basically protecting against your XSS payload. Maybe it's possible that after a month or two, somebody will find a bypass for that particular blockage. So you know that I observed that WAF was blocking something, and after 1 month you found that payload. You can go back to your target and try to perform the attack. Now, learn where you lack and hit back hard. So if you are not sure that how to perform server-side request forgery, it's time to go back, learn what the server-side request forgery is, and hit back hard. The most common mistake that people do is they stuck at the bugs like server security misconfiguration, session expiration, SPF demarc, rate limiting, and then they complain that we are not getting anything because you are not trying the good security bugs. You are just being too much comfortable with the bugs like rate limiting and all. These are the bugs that even a non-technical person can find. These are not that much complicated or technical bugs at all. So make sure that you go about finding cross-site scripting, request forgeries, and some server-side issues, business logics, access controls. Okay, so lastly, we talked about the preparing a potential threat map. So let me just quickly tell you that how we prepare a potential threat map. So since we navigate the application thoroughly in the particular second step, similarly, while preparing the threat map, we navigate the application thoroughly. We list all the components in the functionality. For example, the application has add to cart functionality or adding credit card functionality like that. So we list all those functionalities. Now, based on those functionalities, we prepare a theoretical attack scenario for each functionality. So, for example, there is a credit card functionality. Now, as an attacker, what you can do basically, I can try to enumerate valid credit cards for other users. I can try to add credit cards of some other user. I can try to view credit cards of some other user. I can try to perform transactions with some other user's credit card. Okay, I will try to add test credit cards or something like that, right? So these are the theoretical attack scenario. You don't know if they exist there or not, but you write them down. Okay, now create a possible CIA and CRUD based impact scenarios. CIA is basically your confidentiality, integrity, and availability impact. That if you are performing an attack, CIA is very important. So C talks about, is it possible for an attacker to basically access the confidential information of some other user? I talks about integrity. Is it possible for an attacker to basically modify the information or account or state of some victim user? Availability is for A, which talks about, is it possible for an attacker to basically make the complete web service down for all the users, or maybe delete the user's account so that now victim user cannot access its account at all, or delete some specific component from it. Okay, so create a CIA impact scenario on these potential attacks, theoretical attacks that you have created. Now, CRUD is something: create, read, update, and delete. These are the functions. So, for example, we talked about, is it possible for an attacker to basically view some other user's credit card? So, you are viewing something, that's a read functionality. Is it possible for an attacker to delete somebody's email address, or say delete somebody's cart or something like that? So this is your D function. Is it possible for an attacker to update somebody else's profile? It's update function. Is it possible for an attacker to create a service in some other user account? It's a create particular impact. So on these theoretical attacks, create the CIA and CRUD impact scenarios. Now from these two steps, you will have a potential test cases in a checklist format, and this will be huge checklist. And you will realize that if you are not following this, you might miss a lot of issues, because we cannot remember each and everything on top of our head. But if you're using this, you will have a particular checklist which is application and functionality specific. Now verify all these test cases while you perform assessment. It will take time for sure, but the results will be amazing. I did this in the month of May on a single target, and I was on that time bug crowd top 600 or something, and I jumped to top 150 that time. So almost in a month, I got around 800 points just by using this particular method. Now, what is the manual testing approach over here is, keep vulnerability standards such as OWASP top 10, OWASP ASVS, application security and verification standard. Sense top risk in mind while you performing pen test. These are the basic things which you have to make sure that you always go through while you are performing the pen test. Understand the application workflow. So application workflow is something like, if you are performing a purchase, okay, how the purchase is happening. So first you go select a particular item, add it to the cart, and then from there you click checkout, then you enter the credit card details, and then finally payment happens, right? So this is the workflow. Figure out what are the possible workflows for the same feature. So is it possible that while you are going to the particular product page, you can directly perform the checkout rather than going to this particular add to cart functionality, right? So write down all the possible workflows for the same feature and try to break that application flow. This is where the business logics exist. Okay, and we will talk about these things in the very last slides about how to specifically target business logic and access control issues. Understand what technologies are being used by the application. So often you will realize that there is a .php extension, there is .java extension, or there is .jsp extension. So you can realize that, okay, the application might be on Java, maybe on PHP, or maybe on some other technologies. Okay, based on that, you can now perform technology specific attacks. Okay, there are some attacks like object injection which only exist in PHP. So you might not want to perform the same attack in a Java application. There might be some Java deserialization attack which might not happen in PHP application. So you might be willing to not waste your time to perform that in your PHP application, right? So it basically saves your time. Try to find out bypasses for evading filters. Okay, so often you will see a lot of cross-site scripting, OpenAttack payload, or SQL injection payloads which are blocked, and you are not able to basically perform an attack using a word list or using a payload list. So the best approach over here is to look how the data is treated. Try to input a single character. Say you are giving the lower angle bracket or the greater than sign. Try to see how the application is like processing the input. Is it encoding it? Is it discarding it? Or how the application is basically behaving with that particular component. Now, based on that, try to perform various encodings. Say you are performing double encoding, maybe performing UTF based encoding, and see is it processing that encoding and is it reflecting the normal angular bracket now. Okay, so this is how you try to identify if there is a possible bypass that you can create. Try to perform testing for every single vulnerability without giving an excuse that I don't know this. If you are not sure that you cannot perform SQL injection, go again to learn, research, and start hacking again for SQL injection. And do not rely that much upon the automated scanner tools. They give most of the time false positives. Okay, so now this is one of my favorite part to talk about the scope-based recon, and this is where we will talk a little bit about some practicals. So before that, if you guys have any questions so far, you can just drop in while that I just boot up my VPS. Okay, so a scope-based recon is a simply a methodology which divide how to perform recon when a specific set of scope is provided. So I divided scope into three categories: small scope, medium scope, and large scope. In the small scope, we specifically talk about a single application like www.target.com is in scope, or say app.target.com is in a scope. In medium scope, we talk about star.target.com in a scope. And in large scope, we say every single thing is in a scope. Okay, so in that particular case, often if you are performing the same type of recon on the small scope, doesn't make sense. If you are performing the same recon that you perform in large scope on medium scope, it doesn't make sense at all. So if you know that what to perform while performing small scope and what to perform while medium and large scope, you will get to know that, okay, where to invest your time. So scope based recon basically saves a lot of time. You know that what exactly you are looking for. You can easily automate your recon workflow, less chances to submit out of scope issues, and just like other security methodology, it enables you to perform a better recon. Okay, so about bypassing filter for excesses, we will just talk about in the client side issue section so that cover everything at a single place. Now, I will just show you a quick introduction to the tool that I have written for performing recon. Okay, so this is currently I'm running on my VPS. Now, you all might be aware of a tool called Project Beam. If you're not aware, Beam is a tool that enables you to perform scope-based recon. So right now the tool has some issues which will be sorted out in a week. I will be uploading a new version with some new features in Beam very soon. So there is a prototype version of another tool called Project Hanu. So I will just show you that how I basically perform recon. So this is the Project Hanu, and basically it takes input in the form of a file. So the file could be like anything, say I created a file called test file over here. Now all you have to just give is like give some domain names in this particular test file. Say ls clear. Then say project, this just type the name of Hanu and then just give the particular test file over here. Okay, so as soon as you hit enters, it will start running a lot of tools. So the number of tools that are currently implemented in Hanu, I will just show you quickly. Okay, so currently this tool perform these following tasks. Let's just quickly go through them one by one. So it basically takes domain from a list of domains one by one. Okay, so it start with performing subdomain enumeration using various tools. Further, it go about performing subdomain brute forcing. Once those steps are completed, it goes about performing the probing on those particular found domains. Once the probing is completed, it goes and performs subdomain takeovers. Then it performs template scanning with nuclei. Further, it performed port scanning with the NABU and URL extraction using Wayback and Gao. Further, it goes about finding potential vulnerable pattern search with the GF patterns. Further, we talk about performing parameter discovery using ParamSpider. On those discovered parameter, it perform accesses using Delphox. Further, it perform GitHub scanning using GitHound and favicon hash extraction using favefreak. Further, perform JavaScript scan using JS scan, perform secret finding using secret finder, and further perform a directory enumeration using dir search. And these are some of the features of this tool. Now I will show you that once you run this tool, how the results are stored. And this is the main part of this tool, that how results are stored. So just a second. Yeah. So for example, I performed recon on a public program, Pokemon.com. Okay, so this is how the results of this particular tool is stored in a very neat and clear format. You know that what a particular file is all about. So say for example, I want to check the results of directory search. I have to go to this directory enum folder, and there you will have all the reports for this particular domain. So I want to check for the batch which was started on 26/11, say. So just go to this particular folder, and there you have all these files where we have performed the particular sub directory fuzzing. Okay, so let's say I will just want to check for say notify.pokemon.com, and this is where the results are stored. So now this is a very good approach that to save your time. This just allows you to run the tools one and all your recon is done at a single place. You will see all those features very soon in the project Beam with better improved installation. Also, what you can do is basically you can run a command called screen command and say screen hyphen s, create a screen, say UPES. It will create a separate screen. Often when you are running VPS, the connection goes out over SSH and your tool will stop working. Now, when you are creating a screen, the tool will keep on running on the background unless the VPS is stopped, not the SSH. Okay, so what I will do is I will basically run project Hanu on a file called test. Okay, so this is basically performing recon on seagate.com, which is again a public program. So while it's performing subdomain enumeration, just assume that I turn off my laptop or some error occurred and SSH connection is closed. Now, again, all I need to do is connect to my VPS, say screen ls, okay, let's say screen r, and since you are seeing the screen is attached, just give a command screen hyphen d and UPS. Now screen is deattached, and now we will reattach, and again we are at the same point where we left. The tool is still running. So this is where you can keep on your VPS running for the days and months. And I usually do is I give like 10-15 targets at the same time. Okay, so Project Hanu is currently not launched for the public. It's again a beta version for Project Beam only. So just change the name for particular thing. What I will do is I will be pushing all those features into Project Beam itself, which is already on the GitHub. You will see the changes in a while, in a week probably. So this is where I prefer doing all my recon. Other than that, there are some other recon things that I will show you that how you can do. So Spice is basically a cybersecurity search engine, and you people have seen a lot of the things that are doing. They are doing a lot of giveaways and all. So I will quickly show you that how I basically utilize this thing. So say seagate.com, which is a public program again. I will simply go and search about it. Now you will see a lot of things over here from emails which are leaked. So I can utilize these emails. Say I copied this email. I will now go to github.com. I will will simply go and search all GitHub for this email, and there are like 200 plus times when this particular email might have been used. So I will just make it more fine over here. I will say password. See, we have no code with the email kelly.fuller@seagate.com, and there is no password. So I will do is I will say token over here. There is no token. So this is how we can basically utilize the GitHub and the results that are written by this Spice tool to see if there is any potential leakage. Also, you can see all the organizations which are owned by the Seagate.com. This helps you in performing large scope recon where you have to perform, enumeration on subsidiaries as well. Okay, so further you will get the WHOIS information. Also, the subdomains are listed over here, so you can basically go and open the subdomains. You can check the IPs. It also lists all the certificates that are being used, so you can perform enumeration on that as well. Further, we will talk about the security score. This is something very interesting. See, CVEs. It also lists if a particular website is vulnerable by a particular CVE, and you can check those CVEs, and if anything is remotely exploitable, say it has a public exploit, you can try to exploit it, and if it's exploited, you can go and report it and have some bounties from that. Okay, so like this Lua WebSocket, this is not a public exploit at all right now. So you have to manually go and verify. Don't just go and blindly hit the CVs. If you just see over Spice or somewhere that this is vulnerable by a CV, this won't be like acceptable unless you are able to exploit it. Okay. Now let's talk about Shodan, which everybody well knows what Shodan is. So again, I will simply write in seagate.com over here. Let's see if it returns me some results. Now, often you can get some good results by Shodan, some ports and all, which are running some IPs, which you might not find by directly subdomain enumeration. Okay. Further, right now my plan is not the plan which will allow me to explore everything. So I will just show you specific things only. Let's say I will search hostname dell.com, and you will see there are a lot of results. I can again filter them by the top organization because I want Dell's asset only. I don't want some other assets. Simply I will click on this Dell. It will apply a filter automatically. And now I can see the IPs related to Dell. I can go and I can open any of them. First, I can check what are the ports and services running on them. If they are having any known CVs, again, it will list over here. So let's move to the next. Request bin is again kind of a replacement for the burp collaborator. If you're not having the burp suite pro version and you want to test for external interaction, you want to test for SSRF, you want to test for any out of the band attacks, you will need a public IP or a public bin, from which you can basically interact with the server and see if you are getting a request. So you can basically create a bin, and it will create a bin for you. Okay, I guess they changed a little bit over here. I usually prefer about this post bin, but unluckily this was not working today. I'm not sure why. This is, I guess they just made it down. Also, you can use a website called ping bin. This is also the same website if you want to receive any callback or something over here. Again, they changed it. I don't know why. Okay, again, this website is also down for some reason. Okay, so these are some of the quickest recon things. Other than that, I usually rely less upon some other recon tactics because my tool Project Beam does all the job for me. Google docking is something that you have to go and do. So say, for example, you want to check for seagate.com subdomain. So what I will do is I will basically say dot seagate.com minus site www.seagate.com. So now it will list only the subdomains of seagate.com, not the main website. Okay. So again, it enables you to granularize result better. Further, what you can do is you can also do this to look for 2-degree subdomains. Sometimes you will get some other results as well, so you can just ignore them. Okay, so for the complete list of Google Docs, you can go to Google Hacking Database. There you will get all the docs. You can basically go and filter them by the categories. So if you want to look for, say, vulnerable servers, you will get all the particulars. So I want to check for powered by Jira Service Desk. Okay, so just copy this particular doc over here, and you will get the powered by Jira Service Desk. Any website which will be having this keyword, you will see over here. Now I want to look it for a specific website, say seagate.com. Now it will try to look for the specific website seagate.com, and since there is no result, you will see nothing over here. Okay, now let's again move ahead to the next topic. Burp suit hacks. This is something interesting if a lot of people are not sure that how to perform various things with burp suit. So there are things like advanced scope controls, important extensions, texting access control issues, fuzzing and all. So let's just quickly jump into it and I will show you practically itself. Okay, so I guess you can see my burp screen. Yeah, okay. So burp suit is again a handy tool and everybody knows about it who is into the field of bug bounty. For those who don't know, burp suit is basically a proxy tool which enables you to capture the request which is being made from the client to the server and analyze the request and response while allowing you to perform various modifications and allow you to perform various attacks. So let's first talk about setting up advanced scope control. So a lot of time when you will turn on the proxy and when you will basically, let me just start another browser. Okay. So a lot of time what you will see is whenever you will turn on burp suit and say I want to search google.com, you will see a lot of different results rather than google.com as well, like incoming telemetry, mozilla.org or something. So these are like frustrating and a lot of time I don't want to see them. So the one way to do is like I will simply go to this particular google.com and I will add it to the scope. Say yes, further show only in scope items, go to proxy options and under intercept client request, enable is in target scope true. Now this will only capture google.com, but what if I have 1,000 subdomains to enumerate? I cannot basically go and add each of them one by one. So this is where the advanced scope control comes into the picture. Now let me just quickly remove it. Okay, so now let's say I want to go to seagate.com. Okay, structure. Now, what is the thing that we will need to do over here is to set up a advanced scope control to make sure that we are just looking for the traffic coming from star.seagate.com. So simply go to scope, click on use advanced scope control, click on add and write the simple regex over here. Firstly, write seagate.com, at last and a dollar. At this first dot, add a backslash, again add a dot and a backslash, sorry, backslash, and further just simply do dot star and that's all. This is the regex that we have added. Now the scope will be only for the star.seagate.com. Now just say show only in scope items, go to proxy, go to options and just add yours in target scope, turn on the intercept, refresh and only seagate.com is here, no other request at all. Okay, so this is a very good way to eliminate all the unnecessary traffic. Now let's see, I want to go to say blog.seagate.com. You will see only blog.seagate.com over here and your target tab is automatically populated. So this is a very good thing the Burp provides to make sure that you have everything in control. Now the logger plus plus is an extension which helps you to keep logs for everything. This is usually useful when you do pen test rather than bug bounty, because in pen test people ask us to save logs and all. Authorize is a plugin that helps you to perform authentication and access control test. Okay, so what you need to do over here is to just add the cookie of a user A. Okay, just add a user. Suppose this is a user A cookie. Click on save headers. It will give you this input box. Write down name cookie. Okay, now click authorize is on. Then from this scope only items, click on add filter. Okay, now every time when you will perform request on the target which is in scope, the authorize tool, what it will do is it will replace the cookie of the user's original request to the cookie that you have set over here on, and it will try to check if you can bypass the access control, and it will show things over here. Further, it will do is it will remove the cookie field at all. Okay, so you can also test unauthenticatedly and from other users cookie. Now suppose there are two users, user A which is admin, user B which is a normal user. So how we will use this tool is I will log in from user A which is admin, and I will add user B's cookie over here. Since the user A and user B have different functionalities, the tool will try to hit every request of user A with the user B's cookie and as without any cookie, and try to see if we can bypass the access controls and if we can bypass the authorization checks. And this is really a handy tool. All you need to do is just crawl the application from admin user, and it will perform all the activities by itself. So it is a really nice tool to have. Again, there is a tool called what it is, yeah, so there is a tool called flow, which again kind of keeps track of the http request and all. So we will use it with the http request smuggler, and I will show you that how we can basically automatically find http request smuggling. Should be okay. So just turn on this http request smuggler, go to repeater and click this uncheck this update content length, click on this http request smuggler, and make sure that you have the skip once unchecked. Then simply click on the target, right click and click on launch smuggle probe, and click on OK. Once you will click on OK, the flow will start performing a request for the various this HTTP request smuggling payloads. If you can see over here, I'll just, so it's automatically adding the transfer encoding identity and all. And if the tool will find anything, it will reflect in the issue tab. Now this is just an indication that the application might be vulnerable. It is not sure the application will be vulnerable, so you have to again manually verify, but this is a handy tool to ensure that we are like quickly checking everything. Also there are a lot of tools like let's just quickly talk about some of the tools. So backslash powered scanner is again tool for checking a few vulnerabilities, bypassing the WAF and all. So you can use it. Further, there is a tool like burp bounty scan check builder, which is a signature based scanner like nuclei, but it is for burp suit. So it basically allows you to it allows you to perform scans based on the specific templates, and if it's vulnerable, it will just pop up over here in this particular tab. So for example, the base 64 encoded data in the parameter you will see over here. So similarly, you will see the results from the burp bounty as well. Further, there are tools like Collaborator Everywhere. So this is a really good tool and extension. What it do is it will add the various work collaborator link in various parameter in a particular request that you will see. So let's just enable this particular extension, and I will show you how it works. Just turn it on. Enable proxy. So you will see that now this is adding a lot of headers which are not default. It is adding a lot of burp suit, this particular collaborator URL. See, it's adding in user agent, it's adding in various headers. Now, if any request will hit the burp collaborator, you will see this in the target tab as external service interaction. And then you can go and verify that from where the request came from. Now, these are some of the handy extensions. Burp also provide a way to enable macros. I will share a link to the video which explicitly talks about setting up burp macro because it's a long process. So we will not be able to cover up here in this particular slide. Okay. Now, checking for fuzzing. So intruder is really a good tool to check for fuzzing. So what you can do is basically, suppose there's a request. Let's quickly grab any request from proxy. Just want to these scope items, blog.cget.com. Let's send it to the intruder. Just clear the position. I want to check for the various directories. Set a marker over here. Make threads to 500. In payload section, now you can select any list, or you can also use any list which is being provided by here. I prefer the sec list and the custom list that I use, but for this particular thing, let's just fuzz it with the particular fuzz list. Click on start attack, and it will just quickly complete the results, and you can further short the result by length. You can also try to check if you are getting something interesting out of it. So let's just see if we get something. If there is nothing interesting, that this is something that you have to go and manually verify that if the application is throwing something interesting or not. So this is how you can use burp suit to perform fuzzing. Okay. Now let's talk about the next stuff. Okay. This is something very important, and a lot of people might be interesting to know what are my approaches for performing server-side issues and finding server-side exploits. So I will quickly give you a few examples that how I go about finding the server-side exploits. So before that, if you guys have any question, you can just drop in. I will just take a 5-10 second break. Hi, Asher. I will just cover this question in the client-side issues. So right now we are just talking about server-side issues first. Okay, so before exploiting the server-side issues, we have to understand the what are the server-side issues. So anything which is interacting with the server, any parameter which is interacting with the server and returning us any result, this is where the server-side issues come into the picture. The issue occurs at the server side, not at the client side or the application's front-end source code. This is something which is the misconfiguration on the application server. Now, let's talk about SQL injection quickly. So if there is an ID parameter which is going, so it might be vulnerable. So there are two ways you can check. You can always run SQL map, and also you can try to first understand what the application is. So for example, the application is ASP.NET application. So there are 99% chance the database would be Microsoft SQL, okay, MS SQL. So you have to perform a specific attack to MS SQL and try to identify if there is some error-based injection first by injecting the specific characters like say backslash or semicolon or something. Further, try for the time-based attacks. Use the payload all thing master for getting the various payload. Write some delays, say 20 seconds, and check if the request is returning that particular delay of 2000 milliseconds. Further, you can check about Boolean attacks, say or 1 equals to 1 and something like that. Then further, let's talk about there is an out of band exploitation. This is where you have to fuzz the application and try to see if you can inject some arbitrary code into that parameter, and this is returning some request to the out of band server. Apart from that, if we talk about performing a remote code execution, which is like everybody wants at least to once perform. So my favorite approach to perform remote code execution is via file uploads. Okay, so oftentimes we can upload files in application in various ways, like in profile picture, in say some other upload options. So there are few bypasses that I usually prefer. I first try to say application is PHP application. So obviously I will go about uploading a PHP web shell. So first I will upload a single .php shell, and if the upload is successful, I will try to see if it's executed. Okay. Now assume that the .php shell is not successfully uploaded. I will try for double extension attack. So say I will try for .php, .png, or .png, .php. Okay. So this is where sometimes the application check for if the png extension exists or not, and it will allow you to upload the php shell itself. Further, I will try for triple extension attack, like say .php, .png, .php, or .png, .php, .php, or something like that. Okay, so you can basically use an extension attack, like you can add as many as extension you want, say extension 1.2.3.4.5 or something like that. Okay, so you will get an idea if this is filtering out by a maximum of 3 or 4 extensions. Further, I try to perform type juggle, like I basically will write say dot php, in that p will be small, h and p will be capital, or maybe ph will be capital and the last p will be small, or something like that. Okay. Further, we can change the content type. So I am uploading a php shell, but I will change the content type to say image jpg or something like that. Sometimes it bypass the thing. Further, if there is a feature like it's checking the metadata, there is something called image metadata. So I will try to inject the image metadata in my PHP shell code and try to see if it's successfully getting uploaded. So these are the few ways where I go and basically try for performing a file upload and then further performing a remote code execution. Let's talk about XML external entities, which is again a really interesting vulnerability, and I will share a simple approach that I recently also discovered. So often web application allows you to add SVG files on profile pictures and other endpoints. So you can basically perform XSE to SSRF using SVG images. So there are you can simply go to Google and search XSE via SVG. You will get a HackerOne report. So there is something called Xlink parameter, which allows you to embed a hyperlink. Okay, so when you will add hyperlink as a burp suite collaborator link and save it in the svg file and upload it and navigate to that svg file, the application will process the svg file and the further processing the link that you provide in that svg file, and you will receive a interaction on a burp collaborator. So this is a simple XSE attack that you can perform. Further, if the application is sending JSON data, you can try to convert JSON to XML. Okay, there is an extension called content type converter. You can try to convert JSON to XML and try to see if you can basically perform XML attacks over there. Oftentimes, application will show you that data is going to JSON, but the XML parser might still be on over there. So just try to convert from JSON to XML and try to see if you can execute the XML-based attacks if the request is successful. Further, for performing server-side request forgery, I specifically perform server-side request forgery on the endpoint that fetch something from the server. Okay, or there are parameter like file parameter, there might be URL parameter, or there might be some parameter which are fetching something from a particular server. Okay, then let's talk about remote file inclusion or file inclusions. So file inclusion is something again be performed wherever you're performing SSRF, where something is being fetched, but also not only from the server but from third party as well. So a lot of time you will see the URL parameter is fetching some data from third party service, say a CSS file or something. Now you can basically try to fetch a complete website into the application itself, and it can lead into remote file inclusion attack. Okay, so apart from that, these are the specific thing that I look for. There is also attack called insecure deserialization. So in deserialization, I use an extension called Freddy to analyze if there is any serialized data being passed, and then using that, there are some research paper that you have to follow, because deserialization is little complicated attack vectors. There are not that much simple payloads. Also, there is an attack called server-side template injections, where there is a template generator being used, so basically to increase the code reusability at the various places. So the simple way is to test, first know that what the application is. If it's a PHP application, then you can use the curly braces 7*7 and see if the expression is validated as 49 or not. Okay, so this is where we first try to identifying SSTI is a very easy task. There are like some specific payloads to identify if it is vulnerable to SSTI. I will highly recommend to go to the payload all things master, and it's like a really good repository to up for the all the up to date payloads. I use these payloads for everything, and also there are something you will learn as well. So for example, XPath injection, there is also a good quick summary. There are also some references and tools given, so you can obviously go and check about them. You can learn from those reference papers as well. So yeah, this is a really good repository. Now let's talk about client-side issues, where a lot of people are interested to know how to bypass for the accesses. So let's quickly talk about the Asher's question, how to bypass accesses if the input is encoded in a string. Now, there are a lot of bypasses where, say, let me show you quickly. Okay, so just assume that your payload, say, script is encoded into a string. Let's say it's just, sorry, it's just like, say, script. So now try to see the source code of the page. Try to see if you can break out of those string and try to see. So what I will do the first is I will just add a string in my payload. Okay. And then I will just simply add a closing tag and try to see if this particular string is being closed and my script tag is basically not filtering anymore. Okay. So this is the first approach that I will try to follow over here. Say this one. Similarly, you can also try to inject HTML comments over here to see if you can basically, break out from the particular thing. Now I will try to see if I can basically break out this particular syntax and my script alert can execute or something like that. Now I will try to also use some particular things like say dash dash, and so ultimately I have to see how the encoding is reflected in the source code, and I will try to find out how to basically escape out of that particular encoding. If there is no way I can escape, then probably that filtration is really good and I cannot uh, basically break the syntax. And so it's not like that every time you will be able to perform cross-site scripting. If there is some good validation on place, it's possible that highly possible that you might not be able to find anything out there. So if the application is using whitelist approach, this is really hard, to perform accesses, because you have to figure out that what vulnerable tag they are using. Okay, but if it's a like blacklisting approach, obviously you can go and prefer it, like fuzzing using the various payload list. So recently I also wrote a blog about performing open redirect attacks, so I will just tell you about that. Often open attacks are blocked by the application these days, but there are a few ways that you can still go and look for the open redirection attacks. I will just quickly open the Medium link for you guys. Okay. Okay, so whenever I go about finding open redirection, I use like 3 approaches. First thing is I log into the application and I navigate to any authenticated page, say my profile or something like that. So the URL becomes something like this, right? The target.com/my profile. Now at this particular page, log out from the application. And often you will see something like, say, forward back to, or say forward parameter, or redirect to /my profile. Now, whenever you see this forward or like anything like this return URL forwarded to redirect URL return parameter, it's high chance that there is an open redirect or SSRF attack. Also, you can sometimes execute cross-site scripting over here. Okay, so what I will do is basically I will pick up this URL, and in this particular forward parameter, first I will try for open redirection. I will simply say https the target website.com. I will hit on login button by providing my ID and password. And if it successfully redirects me to the target.com, it means that this is vulnerable to URL redirection attack. Now, the second thing I would test over here is I will also, in this particular forward parameter, I will add JavaScript alert 1 and try to see on clicking on login if it basically injecting and performing an cross-site scripting attack over there. Okay, so the second approach is to enumerate the parameters using tools such as param spider and arjun, and then using those parameters to test against the URL redirection attack. You can simply fuzz it using burpsuit. Approach 3 is like running gov and wayback URLs on the target application and save them on a file. Run open redirection on GF patterns on the file which you gathered from step 1, and on those URL again fuzz using burpsuit for the potential URL redirection attacks. Okay, there might be some bypasses, like this is one of the bypasses where I used HTTP scheme with the integer representation of the Google's IP to perform this particular bypass. So you can read this blog on Medium where I talked about it. Okay, now let's talk about one of the CSRF finding that I published. Okay, so CSRF is sometimes painful if the JW tokens are used, and most of the time it is not possible to perform CSRF attacks when there is JWT and proper validation in place. So we will talk about the scenarios when the application using anti-CSRF tokens. So there are a lot of bypasses that we can perform, like remove the anti-CSRF token and see if the request is successfully processing. If it is processing, you can further test for CSRF attack. Spoof the anti-CSRF token by changing a few bits. So for example, the token is like this. Okay. Now I will just change the C to D and see if it's still accepting the token. Okay, so this is spoofing the token. Using the same anti-CSRF token, so I will try to use attacker token for the victim account to see if I can bypass the CSRF protection. I can try to see if the token generated is having a weak cryptography issue, like maybe a base 64 or MD5 hash of an email address or the username of the victim user. I can try to guess the anti-CSRF token if it's really small. If it's a 4-digit or 5-digit, I can brute force it. I can try to steal the tokens with other attacks such as cross-site scripting. Assume that the CSRF token is going in the cookies and there's no HTTP only flag. I can basically use XSS to steal the token. Also, we can convert the post request to get request and remove the CSRF token field to see if we can bypass it. Okay, so these are some of the methods that I use to perform CSRF attack, and I like lately found a lot of CSRF attacks using like all those bypasses, and not from the spoofing one and not from the guessable one, but I found like using the same token, using removing anti-CSRF token, stealing the token with XSS and all. Okay, so these are some of the things that you can go and look up for the client-side issues. There are a lot of issues like rate limiting. There are issues like okay, so there are a few basic issues that I will also highlight. First one is weak password policy. Weak password policy issue when you are able to give any single digit password to the application while creating an account or while changing the password. Okay, so this is a P4 issue for Buckcloud and HackerOne. Secondly, if you see that credential are going over HTTP in a plain text format, this is again an issue. So make sure that you are checking HTTP, not HTTPS. Okay. The third thing over here would be checking for the session expiration. This is something that you are all might be familiar with. Creating a single account, login with the 2 account and changing password from 1 account and refreshing the second account to see if the session is still active. Okay, so these are some of the issues. You can also try 2FA bypass issues, like you enable 2FA, you change password, and while changing the password, it do not ask you for the 2FA. And after changing the password, the 2FA will also be removed. So this is also a security misconfiguration issue. Okay. Prefer more time on directory enumeration, directory searching on the application. Often you will get a lot of interesting stuff. Also perform port scanning on the URL. So say app.target.com, perform a port scan. Sometimes you will find misconfigured ports over there. And try to create your own fuzz list from various tools. Okay. So let's just talk about, okay, is learning JavaScript a necessity for becoming a good bug hunter? JavaScript will help you to perform various attacks, and it's really kind of a necessity to at least know that how JavaScript works, how basically DOM attack works, what are the sinks and sources, how reflected accesses work, what are the various JavaScript functions. Okay, so knowing the various programming language always helps you to understand the application architecture better. So I know a few programming language like Java, PHP, Python, Bash. Then I can understand the code in almost every language, because this is something that you will learn with the experience, that the more you will test various application like ASP.NET, or maybe so you will get an idea that how an application behaves on a particular attack, or what you can do to bypass it. So VPS plan, currently my VPS plan is on the trial period, so it's more of free. I usually use VPS based upon the requirement. I have like 2 3 VPSs, so usually the plan is like around $40 to $50 per month, and sometimes it goes about like $10 per month if I just need VPS for specific things. So what are the different methods to bypass MySQL authentication if we know the MySQL version from Nmap? So the first thing I would try over here is to check if there is any known vulnerabilities for that particular MySQL version. So say there is a version called version 10. Okay, and now I will go and check for the CVs for the version 10, and I will check if there is any authentication bypass. I will try to first, okay, uh, for the common passwords, common username and the passwords, I will try for the default credential. At last, if there is nothing like that which can happen, there is no security misconfiguration, then probably that the authentication or the MySQL implementation is secure enough over there. Okay, let me check. Okay, should one start with the responsible disclosure programs first rather than bug bounty, since they offer less competition? See, this is totally upon you. If you want motivation first, you can start with the responsible disclosure programs. If you want to, get a good hands-on. So I always recommend start with the public programs which are having a good fight scope. So basically we can have a very good hands-on on the various bug class. So my simple approach is, if I want to learn say GraphQL injection, so I will find programs which have the GraphQL implementation. I don't care if they provide bounty or not, I just want to check my skills on GraphQL which I have learned. So I will start testing on those programs. If I will find a bug, I will report it. The one thing, if I will get bounty, it's obviously a good thing, but other thing is now I have a good hands-on experience with finding GraphQL injection, right? So if you want to test for a SQL injection, go to responsible disclosure programs and start finding SQL injection. So once you are comfortable enough that yes, you can find any security issue in any application provided to you, you can only focus upon the program which pays you some good amount. Also, if you want some quick recognition, you can start working on the public programs and start having some certifications, hall of fames and things like that. Okay, so how to understand what is real cookie and what is Google add cookie in the request? Okay, so once you are logged into an application, let me just quickly show you. Let me just log into an application, so show you that. Okay, let's just go to seagate.com. Okay, now let's just talk about, you are in this particular github.com. So there are a lot of cookies that you will see. Now you can realize which are the cookies by github.com by looking at the domain. Okay, so these are the domain are like github.com. So these cookies are provided by github.com. Similarly, you will see add cookies in some different format. See, now in this particular thing, you are looking at very other cookies in seagate.com. There are Bing, BIDR, blog, so ML314. So these might be some third-party cookies like twitter.com and all. So you will see some G-static cookies and something like that, which allows you to identify if the cookies are basically, from some other third-party sources. Okay. If we have 500 to 1000 subdomains, how it is feasible to check business logic errors on each subdomain? See, the 1000 subdomains will not always contain the main applications of the program. Mostly they will be some third party application. Mostly they will be some applications like some blogging application like WordPress or something like that. So there you need not to check for business logics. Business logic need to be checked on the main application itself, or the application developed by the organization itself. Okay, for the third party and some other applications, you will always go and check for the known vulnerabilities rather than checking for the business logics. When testing against website which are ECMA or Cloudflare, do you use VPN in that case? Sometimes we need VPN in that case, but often I try to find out the source IP by looking at the various things. Like I will go and check for their DNS history, and I will go to security trails and check if I can find the real IP address behind it. How do you brute force subdomain? Is it using mass DNS? Uh, Basically, I use shuffle DNS, which is a wrapper around mass DNS written in Go. I'll show you the quick script that I use. So this is the script which I use basically. I use shuffle DNS. I give a word list of subdomain, which is from Common Speaks. I give a resolver, which is generated by DNS validator, and this is it. This helps me to perform the subdomain brute forcing, and it is really fast. If you want to see in it real time, I'll just show you. Okay, there is some issues with it. Where currently the particular file is not set. Okay. So currently this particular is not configured over here, but you can use this particular script if you want to perform the enumeration. So this line does everything. The first line. This is where you perform the subdomain brute forcing. Simply give the input to the shuffle DNS, give the word list, give the resolver, and that's it. That does all the job. By changing cookie of account A to account B of certain activity happens or changed, then it is vulnerable. Yes, in that particular case, for example, that admin is able to perform action which is not being able to perform by the user B. Now, if by changing user B's cookie to user A, if you're able to perform user A's action, it's obviously vulnerable. It's a pre-escalation, or you can say the bypass technique. Yes, I use Chrome developer tools often, specifically to understand the. So I will tell you that what all things I use in this particular thing. So let's just quickly go to inspect. The first thing is obviously to check the source code and various JavaScript files. Also, sometimes I use console to call a particular thing. So there might be say HTTP parameter pollution attack, and there you need sometimes developer tools to call a specific module of the application or function. In the sources, you will often find various JavaScript files, and in JavaScript files often you find a lot of misconfiguration. You will find a lot of credential leakage and all. In the network tab, sometimes we can see if some request is getting blocked or how things are being performed. And then application tab is somewhere we analyze cookies and local storage, session storage, and everything. And that's it. This is what mostly I use for the developer tools. Okay. So proxy chain, I don't use proxy chain to stay anonymous. Rather, I use proxy chain to perform the port forwarding and all, performing the scanning while I perform the pivoting. Which vulnerability we can check using cookies? You can check for the session hijacking issues. You can check for the entropy issues in the cookies. You can check for the pre-escalation by replacing the cookies. Also, you can check sometimes cookies are also vulnerable. They are logged, and you can check for issues like remote code execution using cookies if the cookie is getting stored somewhere in the logs or something. This is a rare case. Also, cookies, if the user ID or something is going directly, you can try for the IDORs to perform account takeovers. There is no particular way to find source IP. I just basically Go to security trails. I'll show you. Simply give the website name over here. Click on DNS records, and then I check and analyze the DNS records. So there are like 191 might be something. So this is somewhere I check if there is any kind of DNS name which is leaked, which is not by some third-party services like Cloudflare or something. What is the approach for CMS like WordPress and Drupal? The first thing is directory enumeration for the WordPress and Drupal. Secondly, if I can find their admin login page, I try for default credential. And third thing is I try for the known vulnerabilities in Drupal and WordPress and other CMSs. So I use DNS validator to create a list of live resolvers. You can search about DNS validator on GitHub. It's by Vertex or Bugcrowd. So you can use this to generate your own list of the resolvers. So I use this every time. Like I basically create a new resolver list every 5-10 days. So rather than using auto repeater, I prefer autorize. Autorize is fairly simple. Most of the time they do the same job, but I prefer autorize. It's fairly simple. It's a good tool to use. So this is most of the it. If you guys have any further questions, you can ask. Already you guys are bombarding. That's a really nice thing to interact. If you guys have any other questions, you can ask, or you can get in touch on the following things. I will upload the PPT to the speaker deck. Also, I will tweet it on the Twitter. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I will be there for next 2 to 3 minutes. If you guys have any question, you can drop in. Otherwise, you can just tweet it or ask our Twitter chat.
Uh, yeah, guys, you can ask questions now for 2 minutes, I guess. If you have any, shoot now. Okay, okay, fine. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, and please accept our sincere appreciation for the outstanding talk you have conducted today. Uh, we, the members of Cyber Sentinel, express our deepest gratitude towards you for taking out the time to hold this session. Since we are in the growth phase of our budding skills in the field of cybersecurity, your knowledge was very helpful for our participants. Many members were at the standstill in the progress, and your talk seems to provide the much needed help. Thank you, sir, for your truly impactful talk. We hope you will join us again. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
sure. Thank you very much.
And and
Yeah.
for all the participants, we'll be back with another talk soon. Till then, stay safe and take care. Keep hunting. Thank you, sir.
Have a nice day. Thank you so much. Thank you.